Hi, everyone, and welcome back to AI Meets API. I'm Amy, the producer of this podcast, where we explore the latest in enterprise technology with industry leaders and innovators. Now, handing it over to our host, Ajay.
Thanks, Amy. Hello, everybody. Welcome once again. I am Ajay. I will be your host for today's discussion. We are diving into the world of enterprise integration, the kind that powers the seamless operations across the large global organizations. Joining us today is Anup Bansal, Global IT Head for Enterprise Integration at Siol Logistics. He is a TOGAF certified enterprise architect with over 12 plus years of experience across logistics, banking, and technology domains. Anup, we are excited to have you here.
Thank you, Ajay. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks. Let's start with some of your major milestones in your career. You went through a lot of career changes and progressions, out of which one stands out as the proudest?
Yeah. Good question, Ajay. So I've worked on multiple technologies and also in integration BPM space. But one that really stands out is when I started developing the highly available API management platform on Kubernetes for my organization. I was pretty new to Kubernetes, that and containerized platforms. Until then, we were working with the VMs and all of that stuff. And API Manager solution also was new to me. So it was a very great learning experience. Primarily, it was new from a technology perspective. On the other side, it was also a change in mindset to adopt APIs within the organization. So it was about deploying software. It was about involving multiple teams, technology, and processes, and aligning that across multiple continents. So yeah, and it still runs today, pretty steady, pretty good, and I'm really proud of it.
That's huge. That long lasting impact is the best kind of win. You have worked across pretty wide tech stack, right? Either it's a Java or .NET, MuleSoft, or Oracle SOA, TIPCO, and many more, right? And in one of our conversations, you also mentioned about application rationalization is also an important aspect that is driving a lot of the work what you are driving. I'm curious to know how does this application rationalization is accelerated using integration, or how does integration play in the role of application rationalization?
See, as we all know, integration sits in the middle of everything. When we talk about consolidation of platforms, consolidation of applications, integration forms the backbone. Because it sits in the middle, it's not very visible to everyone. So any kind of bridging that you need to do, you basically have this middleware platform that can essentially make that bridge between different applications. So that's the strength of integration in general. When you're basically connecting cloud platforms or on-prem applications, right, in a very secure and and making it very future-proof. So that's where integration plays a big role. And when applications are distributed globally, right, in order to essentially make sure that the businesses are not impacted when you're moving from one platform to the other, that's the key aspect of integration. And that's mainly one of the areas I feel from a rationalization perspective, that if you have very, very strong framework, your foundation is strong. It essentially helps you to mitigate the problems that business might eventually encounter if you don't do it well, right? The key aim is to ensure the business keeps going, and also at the same time you're moving a step further towards achieving your goal of moving towards a single platform.
Let me go a little deep on this aspect. How does AI is going to help you or impacting your integration strategy, especially with respect to the application rationalization?
See, AI is just started essentially, right? When we talk about moving from one platform to another, there are certain aspects that you need to build from an automation perspective in order to basically increase the time to market from meeting your objectives on the rationalization part. What I see what AI would do help is basically, providing that intelligent aspect towards making sure that when you are moving from one platform to the other, you're able to do the testing properly, at a much quicker pace than what you would normally do through an automation process. Because when you talk about automation itself, it takes time to build, and it takes time to essentially get that proof proof of concept done, but with AI, I think you can accelerate some of these elements that would help you move from one platform to another. So far, I have, the work I have done predominantly, we've not really used AI, but I really still think, right, that AI would play a great role in this space. And not just applications in general, but also integration platform rationalization, right? I mean, let's say every day you hear about new technologies, and when their legacy platforms on integration, the new ones are coming. Companies are moving from on-prem kind of a integration towards a hybrid kind of a platform, where they may have to move from one integration platform to another integration platform. So even for those use cases, I feel that as the AI technology matures, it has great potential in reducing the effort and time it would take to migrate from one platform to the other. And specifically, when it comes to technology platforms, right? Normally, business does not see a lot of value. It's very difficult to justify the value of move from one platform to another. So the better you can automate, reducing the time, the cost, that is what the benefits would the business would see. And I do see that AI would basically bring in a lot of potential in some of the areas related to application migrations.
Okay, that's a great way to look at it. One is by how do we adapt AI for the business use case itself, and how do the other one you talked about is how AI can be adapted for overall integration itself to increase the speed of delivery or efficiency, kind of a things. But I feel that a lot of one of the biggest thing we hear from the lot of leaders, technical leaders, is that adopting AI, especially in the business, and also now AI and API together. How are you planning to increase the adoption? What are the kind of blockers you are seeing it, and how will you trying to overcome those blockers?
First and foremost, I think it's important to break this myth about AI can do everything. You know, AI is not the silver bullet that will solve all the problems. So the first aspect is, okay, how do you bring in awareness about what AI can do for an organization? Because you cannot put AI everywhere and then expect it to solve your problems, right? So the awareness is a key element, essentially. Then it basically boils down to the skills, because implementing AI solutions is not just about getting someone with machine learning language knowledge and then you expect that it will start working. You need to identify first the business problems. You need to identify which business problems would essentially be solved, could be solved with AI. It's also important to make sure that you start small. Get the smaller projects, see the benefits of what the small project on AI would bring first before you start engaging into a bigger project, because it's a learning process, and AI itself is evolving so fast at such a rapid pace, right? You cannot really say what may work today may not work. You may find more efficient ways to do that rather in the future. So for us, it's really important to really focus on smaller projects, smaller objectives, and then move forward from there, and essentially to bring in awareness within the team and the organization as to how AI can help.
Okay, that sounds right. I heard the similar observation from the some of the other leaders also, that start small and then expand more after seeing the first success and initial success. On a personal side, what are the some of the things you are excited about, especially with AI and API together, that is trending?
AI agents, that's essentially, I think, is going to change the world. So far, it was all about generative AI, video and image processing and all of that. But when we talk about the integration space in specific, agentic AI is going to change the world. The way we see, the intelligent decision making, integration through APIs, the MCPs that are coming in place. I recently read an article around how Kafka could help with the a protocol from an AI perspective. So I think there's a great potential in agent AI, because the amount of time it takes today to develop a flow, right? You need to sit down with business analysts, and then you need to develop it. There's a lot of iteration that goes through the entire process of getting an integration flow into production. But with agent AI, it will become easier to recognize your business requirements quickly, to integrate with your LLM models properly. The intelligence aspect can be built in. It becomes more or less, like how you did, AI landscape, yeah, within your integration landscape rather.
Okay. Self-healing, that sounds very powerful. Can you explain more about it? How does it exactly works in the context of integration?
So in practice, a self-healing system would essentially refer to the capability of automatically detecting, diagnose, and resolve failures in real time, limiting the involvement of human intervention, yeah, of humans essentially. And that's where I see that agentic AI will play a big role to move from what we call as the rule-based automation to more intelligent adaptive decision making. So I'll give you an example. So let's say from an EDI perspective, right? You have a customer that's sending, a customer or a partner sending data where a date field is there, right? And that date field is not being sent in the right format. Right now, in traditional sense, what you would do in your flow, you would build that, you will go through the validation process, and during the validation process, it would fail and then it goes to a retry queue or it is flagged to a business operations user that goes and either corrects the data or we go back to the customer to ask them to resend the data. Yeah.
Yes.
But if we introduce AI agent here, what it could
Mm-hmm.
do smartly is that it knows what the specification is all about. You know what kind of flow you're developing, what it expects, and what is going to bring as an outcome. So it will know if the date field is not coming in the right format. It will automatically change that date field in the right format, and it can play the message through without actually going through the entire process of waiting for the operations to feed in or someone to retry the message. So that's, and obviously we need to be a little careful around what we are doing from a self-healing perspective because you cannot have everything managed through AI. But there are certain aspects that it can definitely help in improving the way we receive data, the way we improve our operational impact on how data flows.
That's a great example, Anup. Especially, I can see from a, like you said, operations point of view, it will be a lot less overhead compared to what we are doing right now. And also, it brings a lot of dynamism or dynamic process into the picture than static workflows. Do you see that this is the future of integration is headed towards, or do you have any further thoughts towards how the future of integration might change?
Well, the way I see how integration would evolve, because with AI coming in picture, it'll become more business focused, right? So the integration teams that today help integrate applications will become more a part of the products that we are using for integration. Yeah, because they become the core part of the underlying framework and the technology that would help integrate. While the business users and the consumers of this platform would essentially see just the benefit, just that the business use case. They just have to focus on the business use case and get that implemented by just doing certain commands, and that's it, right? Whereas the platform that's providing it, right, that's where integration would sit, because that would do the work of integrating the various aspects using AI in order to provide the experience that the business basically is seeing right now.
Further to the same topic, right? So every time I see the integration is evolving, right? When we have from mainframes to the ERPs to the cloud, SaaS, and every time, right? When there is a new layer of technology or the business applications are coming up, the complexity of the integration has increased significantly. And many more patterns of integration came into the place. SOA and then event driven, API management, so many things added onto the integration. Do you see this AI is going to add another layer of complexity while it is taking away some of the existing complexities in the integration?
Well, yes, I would think so. I mean, like I said, from a user's point of view, it might become pretty simple and easy. But from a development point of view, the people that are developing these platforms, they would see more complex patterns that would be built, right? At the same time, I think what would happen is since the pace at which AI would evolve, right, the necessity to adjust these frameworks, to adjust the platforms would also become quite important. The scale at which you're basically changing them and adjusting them. So that's where the complexity would lie, not necessarily from the consumers of the platform, but mainly on the development side. So you need to keep up with the pace at which the AI is changing. I would say MCP. I mean, it's a typical integration protocol for AI that's being used today, right? It wasn't very clear. I mean, I think a couple of months ago it was not that known, but now everybody knows about MCP. Everybody's talking about MCP, right? I also heard about A2A protocols, which I just mentioned, which I saw in one of the articles that I read less recently. And yeah, that's another way of integrating through AI, using AI. So these new patterns would evolve, and we will have to, and we've always done it, and we will have to adjust accordingly and introduce and find ways in which we can introduce these patterns into the way we develop our application.
I'm curious on how is the overall like data is new oil or something people have been talking from some time. In the integration world, we have been not using the data or nurturing the data. We are always like a transmitting data from one point A to point B and always act as a brokers in the transformation of the data. But with this AI, do you feel that integration not only acts as a conduit to transfer the data but add more value to the data? One example you laid out on the like a date field where AI can enhance the data and transfer, not just a dump transfer the data by the rules. Do you feel that?
Well, I think that's more a use case for AI than an integration related subject. I mean, integration has always been about, whether you are developing integrations application centric or whether you're making it data centric, right? And there are pros and cons for both of them. It depends on what background you come from an organization perspective is what I mean, right? So I think it's more everything is about data. So and AI is also evolving around data only, right? So it's more an AI topic than an integration topic. For integration, I think it's always important to keep it light, right? No matter whether we do it in the SOA way or whether we do it in the today in the microservices way, the AI way, it'll be very important that we still keep it simple, keep it mean, while the business logic and everything is being done by these agents or the application endpoints, which needs to be more smarter. But data per se, it will be these smart systems that will basically manage the data. Because, like the example I gave you on the date field, it's not integration specific. I mean, integration is only helping you integrate with the AI agent, which is basically making the decision. And that's where the whole core data related aspect would lie.
That sounds right. One last thing, Anup, is do you have any customer success story or do you think any use case that you think which stand out in your career where you have achieved a lot of benefits from the integration side for the customers you worked for?
From yeah, I mean integration as like I said, right? It's always the core of any organization, right? It's as long as it's working well, everybody's happy. The moment it fails, it creates a chaos in an organization. The projects I have specifically worked on, and I've worked multiple, right? One success I think from my past experience when I was very new to IT as such, I mean, just very new on the integration space as well was when I was working for a banking industry. During one of the projects which was for the urgent payment platform, we had to integrate with a third-party compliance agent to basically check some rates for the urgent payments system. Yeah. And during that time, we were still using SOAP-based services. Making remote invocation calls or API calls was new for me, at least at that point in time. And in fact, when we got into the project and we started discussing with the API provider or the service provider, they also seemed pretty new, even though they had pretty clear documentation around how to consume that API. They were pretty new to it. And during that process, we learned, I learned a lot and we could get this compliance check implemented for the urgent payment. In fact, our understanding and learning that we had from this project, it also helped other banks in Europe to adopt this API. So we made some seminars about this. I mean, seminars, as in we had some calls with the other banks essentially where we could share our experiences with them. So I think that's when, for me, I realized what's the true power of application integration, right? So far, until then, I was just dealing with business process management and all of those good stuff. Yeah. But when I worked on this project, that is when I really realized, okay, how powerful integration is and how we can exchange information across systems that are sitting very remote to your own organization.
That's a great example. Thank you so much, Anup. Before we wrap up the show, do you have any final thoughts on the integration and how things are evolving, or did we miss anything you like to talk about?
Well, I'm excited about the way the agents are coming in. One phrase that comes to my thought is what Satya Nadella, I think he mentioned, right? That it's the end of SaaS. and AI agents will take over. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, and I'm very excited about how things will shape for us as AI evolves.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anup. It was very insightful conversation. I'm sure everybody got good insights from this conversation. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Ajay, and thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to AI Meets API. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow, rate, and share it with your network. We'll be back soon with more stories from the minds shaping tech's next frontier. Until then, keep building smart.